What's going on, everybody? I'm Aslan Hajavandi, Director of Digital Media for Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Above me, two amazing gentlemen. They've been on the beat forever. They know everything about Florida State inside and outside, and they are here to commandeer the Warchant Report. It's Irish O'Fell, managing editor of Warchant.com, and lead writer for the website, Corey Clark. You all should be subscribed to the website by now because of all the things they've done throughout their career covering Florida State. But if not for anything else, that's $1 American to subscribe to Warchant.com. It's just $1, right, Ira? Just $1.
Just $1. Only $1.
Only $1. Only $1, right, Corey?
Correct. 1 cent more than 99 cents. Right at $1. 100 cents.
Go to Warchant.com. It's right on the front page. Tap on it. Florida State opens the 2022 season against FCS Duquesne on Saturday at 5 p.m. in Doak Campbell Stadium. It will be on ACC Network. Before then, though, starting at 2 o'clock, the pregame show, part of Warchant Game Day, brought to you by Zaxby's. Jeff Cameron and Tom Lane getting you started at 2 p.m. There'll also be a watch-through with Dominic Robinson starting at kickoff, and then the postgame show with Gene and Tom following the results of that contest. So let's get to it, gentlemen. We've done this so many years. It's old hat doing the Warchant Report. So let's look at Florida State before we start diving into the Dukes of Duquesne, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, if you don't know by now. Ira, you've seen all these practices, preseason camp. What are maybe one or the two things that you kind of seen that you feel Florida State has grown in the most when it comes to maybe what you saw last year in spring to where they are at now?
Well, I think that, their biggest objective this offseason was trying to figure out a way to kind of breathe some life into the passing game. Florida State has run the ball effectively since Mike Norvell got here, both with Jordan Travis at quarterback, but also the running backs. And a lot of that is kind of them feeding off of each other. Even with some offensive line issues, they've been able to run the football. But, I think at the end of last season, it was obvious they needed to improve the passing game. And I think from what we've seen in spring practice, but especially in preseason camp, I think they have changed that around. I think this is a passing game now. They went out and got 4 transfer offensive linemen. They went out and got 4 transfer wide receivers. Now, all 4 of those at each position are not left. They've got one guy out still due to injury at the receiver position, Winston Wright. And they also have Caden Lyles is out for the year on the offensive line. But you still have a lot of new pieces to work with on that offensive line and at wide receiver. And I think we've seen that in preseason camp that's had an effect. The wide receivers have won more battles in practice against the defensive backs, certainly than they did a year ago or 2 years ago. It goes back and forth now. It's not one-sided. And I think the quarterbacks will have more time to operate because of the improvement in depth on the offensive line. So to me, that's the biggest difference of this team is they'll be able to pass the ball a little bit more effectively now. And at that, you would assume that that's only going to make life easier and better for the running backs and Jordan Travis when he runs. So I think that's the biggest difference to me is they actually should have a competent passing game.
It's really crazy to think about just how far they've come and possibly could be if these guys work out from the transfer portal, guys like Johnny Wilson, Deuce Spann, Micah Pittman. Corey, with those guys, what you've seen from them here in preseason and now game week, I know Mike Norvell likes a balanced offense. There's times where he's been more run-heavy, more pass-heavy. Could the identity of this offense be, I don't want to say high-flying, but could they rely on the passing game with an improved Jordan Travis and these aforementioned transfer wide receivers?
I don't envision that. I still think their bread and butter, what they want the bones of this offense to be is a run first. I don't know, man, 55 to 60% run versus pass type of offense. I just think that's what he wants. That's what he preaches. That's what Alex Atkins preaches. They've got good running backs. They've got a stable of them. So they're going to want to use them. That said, it was untenable to continue to struggle to throw the ball and to have these kind of receiving cores and be a winning football program. You just couldn't. Not in this day and age. You can't be bad at receiver and win football games. And last year they were bad. Not just bad for Florida State standards, bad for 2021 Power 5 standards. They have upgraded significantly there. I don't think it's going to change who they are as an offense necessarily. I just think it's going to change their ability to do things. They're just going to be better. But I still think they want to not live and die by the run, but I think the first goal in any game is to kind of establish the run. They are going to run. They have a quarterback that can run and 4 running backs that they'll probably, at least 3 running backs they'll use a lot. And I think that's what I don't envision them becoming a pass happy or a pass heavy team, but it would be good to know they can do it if they need to, like Clemson last year. Now, Clemson's not a great example because they have a very good defense, but they could do nothing against Clemson in the second half of that game because Clemson just took away the run and they didn't have a way to beat them at all. I think that's changed now. I think you take your chances with a Johnny Wilson. Like, okay, you're going to cover him one-on-one. If Deuce Spann is something by November, you're going to cover him one-on-one and put 8 in the box and scoot up to the line of scrimmage. All right, we might hit you for an 80-yard touchdown. That really wasn't something they could do last year very often.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and dip into Duquesne then. That is the week 1 or week 0, I guess, for the nation of the opponent for Florida State. Duquesne is led by 18th season head football coach at the helm for them, Jerry Schmidt. They were 7-3 last year. They were picked to finish 2nd in the Northeastern Conference this season. They got 7 preseason all-conference players, 3 on offense, 3 on defense, and a specialist. Now on defense, Ira, they're going to have probably mainly a 3-4 look, it seems. Their former linebacker coach has returned now to be their defensive coordinator, and Mike Craig. Now all 3 of their defensive linemen return, including Maxi Radechny. I looked on the pronouncer on that, so he crushed that one. He's from Austria. Or not Austria, he's from Austria. So isn't that where Von Stryker is from, Corey? Old Bjorn, or was Bjorn from Germany?
He was from Germany, I think, yeah.
Okay, well, close enough.
He's from Austria, so he could put another shrimp on the Barbie.
There we go. Crushed it. All that said, I mean, they've got a 3-4 defense, Ira. 3 guys returning on the front of that. One of them's an all-conference sort of guy. They've got some dudes. The back end's got a couple guys from Florida, the state of Florida. They obviously want to do well here in Tallahassee. What would a good outing for a Florida State offense look like against, again, an FCS team, but some with talent and an established program like Duquesne, do you think?
Well, Duquesne does have a lot of tradition under Coach Schmidt. And, for a while there, when Florida State had their run of top 5 finishes, a lot of people called Florida State the Duquesne of the FBS or of major college football. But, yeah, look, it's a different level of competition. Florida State has to, I think, just be efficient. Again, this is a game where you're going to have a size advantage. You're going to have a speed advantage across the board. If they're efficient, if they can execute well, they should do well. Now, talking to Alex Atkins this week, FSU's offensive coordinator, he said that this coordinator, he is new in that position at Duquesne, but he is a guy that's going to attack. He's going to try to dictate terms. He's going to be very aggressive. You talk about that 3-4 defense. My guess is those outside linebackers will probably be creeped up a lot, and they're going to try to stop Florida State's running game. I think Florida State, if you watch Florida State on film last season, which I'm sure they've watched plenty of it, it's exactly what we've talked about. Florida State's a run-heavy team that didn't show the ability to stretch the field. So even though they don't have great athletes at Duquesne, certainly at the level of a Power 5 school, I do think they're going to try to dictate terms and try to kind of crowd the line of scrimmage and make it tough to run and force Florida State to try to throw the ball and maybe make some mistakes. But so to me, it's a great opener if that's how it plays out, because again, it gives Jordan Travis and these receivers a chance to show how far they've come. And if they can prove that, even against Duquesne, I think that's a good thing going into the LSU game 1 week later, because it's one thing that they have to think about that maybe LSU wasn't maybe a believer in until they see that film. So I think they need to cash in on those opportunities because I think they're going to get them.
Let's look at the Duquesne offense now then, Corey. They returned 3/5 of their offensive line, their center, and the whole entire right side, including all-conference tackle Vincent Lumia. He's another Florida native. They got 10 guys from Florida on that roster. Nobody on the offensive line over 300 pounds. They do return their returning rusher, who's Billy Lucas. He went for 723 yards on 137 carries. That's just a shade over 5 yards per carry. Their top 3 wide receivers on their depth chart have a combined 14 catches, and they have an OR by the names of their quarterbacks, which are Joe Mishler and Darius Parantes. I mean, this is a pretty good setup, you would think, on paper for a Florida State defense to come out and look quite sharp. Can they be aggressive in their base, merely Florida State just being who they are? Or do you want to see them maybe be a little bit more aggressive than you would imagine in a week 0 game against an FCS foe?
Well, yeah, man, I guess I want them to play like it's a real game. I know we've talked sometimes about you don't want to show too much. You don't want to give away too much. I don't really buy that. They tried that last year in a game and got absolutely humiliated. You can't do that. And also I don't think it sends a great message to your team. Like, this game doesn't really, we're just going to be simple and vanilla. I don't know that you need to do that, especially on defense, because there's only so much defensive coverages you could run anyway. I get trying to hide a fake or a trick play until LSU, but with defense, no, be who you are. Just be who you are. If you're going to be aggressive, if you're going to bring 5 a lot on passing downs, do it. Do it. Get those guys, get a blitzer, a linebacker used to finding the gap that's been created and hitting it. They have been a really bad blitzing team for a good long while. And this is a good test for them, in my opinion, to try to get home. Now, it's not going to be near the test of the next week, but it's a test. And like you said, it's an established enough program. You know, these guys aren't going to be poorly coached. So, yes, Florida State has an overwhelming physical advantage. And if they play well, they should win by 5 or 6 touchdowns at least. But you still want to play, and you want to play well, and you want to be who you're going to be. And I think that means, they're pretty aggressive. I don't know, though, Ira. I don't remember them blitzing a ton last year. I think, but they also had Jermaine Johnson. You didn't have to. Like, I wonder if Adam Fuller, second quarter of this game, starts to dial up a few more pressures just to see what can work as the season goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be something to watch for this defense all season. It's something we talked about even at the end of last season because we knew you lost Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas and that they were your top 2 pass rushers. Look, Jared Verse, when you mentioned earlier bringing 5 on pressure, I thought you meant Jared Verse, number 5.
Bring him all the time. Yeah.
But you got him, Derek McClendon, Dennis Briggs. They've got some guys, Patrick Payton, that I think can be decent pass rushers, but it's not going to be anything like it was last year. And I think if the strength of your defense is the secondary, which I think it's arguably will be either them or the defensive tackles, well, you might feel a little bit better about leaving those guys on islands, even your safeties in man coverage, so you can bring some extra pressure. And I think, I think we're going to see that. And I think that's going to have to be the case all year because I just don't think this 2022 defense is going to be one where you're getting a ton of sacks or even pressure from those defensive ends personally.
Nugget for me, be on the lookout maybe for a potential emerging threat from Duquesne, and that is a transfer wide receiver they have from Marist, which is a home of our guy Menelik Watson, if I'm not mistaken, right, gentlemen?
Right.
Yeah.
Dwayne Menders Jr., I think he had a little bit over 40 catches last year over at Marist, and he had 2 games where he caught for over 10 passes, and he's also a Florida native. He's from Miramar, so I'm sure he'll probably have family in the stands. He might have a little extra juice for the Noles, so we'll see how that shakes out. He's a 5'10", 170-pound wide receiver. Warchant.com's got you covered all week long. You can subscribe for only $1 over on the website, but especially on game days, we will have you covered like none other. Warchant Game Day brought to you by Zaxby's will feature during games a watch-through party with Nole legend Dominic Robinson. So get keen insight from a former Florida State player who knows the game inside and out. You can watch along for free live on YouTube. First half will be D-Rob and I reacting to all the game action. Second half, Tom Lang will take you home alongside D-Rob if you don't want to listen to whoever's going to be on the call on the ACC network, although I'm sure they'll do great and they'll try really, really hard. Let's bring it back home to Florida State again, Corey. Jordan Travis, we can't talk enough about him because he's the quarterback of Florida State. It's part of the cost of doing business when you play at this program. Now, looking at what he was last season, he ranked 60th in QBR in the entire nation. He only got into 10 games, started 8 of them. Will he be a top 3 quarterback in the ACC? Now, remember, he averaged a little bit over 205 yards of offense per game last year. I don't know where he would have to be considered a top 3 quarterback in this conference. Will he be, though, a top 3 quarterback, you think, when the season's over?
No, and that's not because I don't think he's better, and I don't think he can be a good college quarterback. It's just the ACC. I don't think he's as good as the kid at Miami. I don't think he's as good as the kid at Virginia. And he's kind of like Malik Cunningham at Louisville, very kind of similar skill sets, but Cunningham has produced a lot more than Jordan Travis has, so it's hard to say he'd be better than him. But, if he can just be the guy he was at the end of last season, and he should be better than that. It's another year. It's more experience. He's got better weapons, so he should be better. But the guy at the end of last year in those final, I guess, 3 games, the Miami, at Boston College, at Florida, he averaged over 300 yards of offense, about 250-ish throwing and over 50 running, and 7 or 8 touchdowns. So if he could be that guy, that's all you need. That's good enough. That dude's a good college quarterback. But I think he can be better than that. And you can't be – Florida State can't have a guy that's 66th in the nation in QBR and have a good offense. He's got to be better in every aspect. But I think from what we've seen in August, he is better. And I can't emphasize enough how bad those receivers were last year and how much in the upgrade that has been made where now he can actually – you can win one-on-one battles. You scheme a one-on-one and you might just not – you're not just looking for a completion, you're looking for a home run. And that's something that just did not happen a lot last year. So I think he should raise his production significantly. Like literally, you said he averaged 205 yards per game last year.
Yeah, roughly.
That should be in ACC games. That should be 80 yards more, at least.
That's incredible. We really can't overstate it, can we, Ira? That, you know, last year we were like crossing our fingers about Andrew Parchment. He arrived late, and at no point in camp did he look anything like a Deuce Spann, let alone Johnny Wilson, what we've seen like the last few weeks, right?
Yeah, and that was, you know, I've seen some of the comments on our message boards, which again, people can take part in our message boards for just $1. I'm going to go ahead and say, guys, I was thinking about this. I missed my opportunity earlier when you set us up, Aslan. It's the best dollar you'll ever spend, unless you hit a lottery ticket, unless you buy the Powerball winner.
Are those $1?
I can get a Powerball ticket for $1, I think, right?
Oh, I thought they were a little more than that. But yeah, even still, you're not going to win that. This is like winning the lottery every day when you log on to Warchant.
But on our message board, somebody said, you know, when you wrote your thing, or one of us wrote something about Johnny Wilson the other day, it might have been from Dominic Robinson's comments about Johnny Wilson, and somebody said, well, I'm sure we heard the same thing last year about Andrew Parchment. No, you didn't.
No, not even
close.
You
didn't. It was a struggle for that guy last year. It took him all preseason camp. He didn't come in the spring like these receivers did. He got here in the summer, and every day of preseason camp was a struggle. We were literally like having side wagers about whether or not he was going to make it through camp, because he was having a tough time not only learning the offense, but learning how they wanted him to play. This is totally different. And these are not guys that are 6'1", rail thin receivers. I mean, these are bigger targets. Micah Pittman's a shorter dude, but he's put together. And then you have Deuce Spann and Johnny Wilson, who are legit. They look like Florida State receivers at their height. They look like that. Now, we'll see if they can play like that. But yeah, it's completely different compared to what it was. And that's going to make life better for Jordan Travis. Again, you know, you could, unless you're an unbelievable quarterback can make average receivers look better. And I don't think any of us think Jordan Travis is an unbelievable quarterback. So he needs guys on the other end who have some skill and talent. And I think he's finally got that.
Let's keep it with you, Ira. Let's look at the things on defense here. You know, pass rush is something I think in the last week or so it's kind of bubbled up a little bit for me in terms of like, gosh, I really hope, you know, that they can hit that sort of, you know, benchmark or the ceiling that we feel these guys can become. Jared, maybe a lesser version of Jermaine, and Dennis Briggs maybe right on par with Kier. I know you might want to say offensive line, but is there any other singular position group, excuse me, that if they do not meet kind of the preseason expectation that we have for them, could affect the overall trajectory of this team as much as defensive ends not being able to get to the quarterback in 2022?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest question mark. I think going into in the spring, I think we would have had receiver in that group and offensive line in that group. But I do feel like with the strides we've seen from them since the spring, I don't have them as huge question marks anymore. Offensive line, they can't take too many more injuries. That could change things. But right now, if you have everybody you have right now, I think, defensive end is probably the biggest question mark. Again, just because, these guys haven't really done it. It's a limited number of options. On the offensive line, you got some other options if the starting five they pick don't excel. At wide receiver, you got a lot of different options. You're basically banking on 2 or 3 of those dudes at defensive end to really step up. Because once you have to start blitzing, nobody loves a well-timed blitz more than I do. We all do. But you expose yourself when you do that. And last year, part of their success was they never had to take those chances. So they could really, drop 5, 6 guys into coverage. And when you can get pressure with that front 4, it's a lot easier. So that to me is, if those guys can produce some pressure, it will be huge. And I don't know that I would bet a whole lot of money on it right now. I still think that they're completely improved me mode going into the season.
Corey, to hear Adam Fuller talk about pass rush versus bringing pressure, that kind of caught my ear the last time we spoke to Adam Fuller. Do you maybe foresee a more aggressive Florida State when it comes to bringing pressure as opposed to just relying on the pass rush from the front 4?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to. You can't, no matter how good you think your DBs are, and I think they like their secondary. It's not, a no-fly zone it's not the Legion of Boom or, other great secondaries of recent years, but it's a good one. It's a good enough, but if no secondary is going to hold up for 5 seconds, especially, again, in this conference with these quarterbacks, you have to. Like the reason the Van Dyke kid was so bad the first 2.5 quarters was he had guys in his face and he got rattled. Like he legitimately got rattled. If you let him just sit back there and have time to throw, he's gonna light you up. And there's a lot of quarterbacks up and down this schedule that can light you up if you give them time to throw. So no, I think you have to bring pressure. You have to affect the quarterback. And if those two, if the defensive line can't do it, and they have some options like on passing downs, what they can do in the interior. I think we all like Josh Farmer maybe as a guy that plays on 3rd and long sometimes. I think in the inside, maybe you move Briggs inside on 3rd and long like they did DeMarcus Walker back in the day. Like they have some options they can do. But man, if you're just trying to get home with 4 and you're not getting home, it's just a long day for the defense. So yes, I expect you hope they're better timed. You hope they get there, more free or get there at all. But yeah, I expect them to have to at least occasionally bring an extra blitzer or two. But like Ira said, then you set yourself up where, okay, you've got, if you miss a tackle on a little dump pass, now all of a sudden it's a 50-yard game because they caught you in a blitz. So it's, there's the fine line there. Remember when Fuller did that last year on like a 3rd and 16 or something? He brought the house and they just threw a screen pass for 30 yards. Don't want to see a lot of that.
Anyway, yeah, let's bring up that memory. But and you mentioned some of the quarterbacks, Corey, but I mean, there's others. Devin Leary at NC State, his touchdown interception ratio is crazy, and he gets rid of the ball quickly, so I don't know you're going to get a ton of pressure on him. But Phil Jerkovich is another example of a guy that they just rattled with the pressure like they did with Van Dyke. If you let a guy like that sit back, you're going to have – he can make you pay. So the complexion of those games for Florida State's defense could look different if you can't get pressure, because last year they got plenty of pressure.
Before we get to game day, join us, the Royal Us, but Corey is part of the Us, over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Friday for a live happy hour with Jeff Cameron and the aforementioned Corey Clark. They'll be hanging out the Corner Pocket. Do we even know, Corey? I'm going to have a graphic over my face right now as I'm talking. Show between 5:15 and 6:15, and you can promise them a good time, right?
Exactly right. Well said, Aslan. Well said. It's happy hour. What would you think happy hour would be if you showed up at a bar? It starts around 5:15, whenever you get there. So you get off work, you head on over there, and we'll be there being happy for a full hour.
All right, so this is the best part of the show when we make our game predictions. It's Duquesne. We're not looking past anybody, everybody.
Right. We don't do that anymore. We learned our lesson.
I don't know what the line is, so we're not going to throw it out there. We're going to take season predictions, win-loss totals. Let's start with the remaining staff that's not here with us right now.
It's definitely going to be a better record. I mean, the one thing you look at this team, they are pretty much better across the board. I think especially quarterback and wide receiver. Jordan Travis has looked a lot better this year. If he can stay healthy. Love what I'm seeing out of the wide receivers. Good at running back. Offensive line should be, even with some guys being banged up, it should be better. Really like defensively. Maybe the pass rush won't be elite, but much better play at linebacker. The secondary is more experienced and deeper. I think the over-under officially is 6.5 according to Vegas. Pull out the kids' college fund, bet the mortgage. I'm telling you, man, they're going to exceed that number. Now, how much? I think 7's easy. Man, I think there's enough on this team that I think they scratch out 8 regular season wins. This should be an 8-win team. I know that's kind of an easy pick right now, but it's a game and a half above what Vegas is telling us right now. So I like that a lot with this team. I think they're going to be competitive in every game. I don't think there's any game on the schedule that you just go, that's an absolute loss. But there's a lot of tough games. It's a tough schedule. And I think we're supposed to pick the bowl too. So I like what I think Action Network, Brett McMurphy had predicted. I think it's about right. It has Florida State in the Duke's Mayo Bowl, which is in Charlotte. Keep it in the ACC. That shouldn't be too far away for fans. So I would not be surprised if that's the case. Maybe we get Corey to slather mayo all over himself if they get there. Who knows, man?
Hey everybody, Jeff Cameron here. Season prediction time. Beautiful Doak Campbell Stadium, Bobby Bowden Field right behind me. All right, Noles, 8-4. 8-4 feels pretty good. I like 8-4. Tax Slayer Bowl over in Jacksonville where we beat Tennessee's.
I'm going to say, on the optimistic side, Jordan Travis stays healthy enough that Florida State shocks the world in September, wins a lot of those games, if not all of them, in September on the way to a 9-3 record. I don't know what bowl that would get him in. I'll tell you which one I'd like to go to, though. How about the Pinstripe Bowl just before New Year's Eve in New York City? That sounds good to me. 9-3, that's the number. Boy, if they get that far, we're all going to be pretty happy on New Year's Eve.
Hey guys, I'm probably about as excited for the start of the year as y'all are. I've got Florida State beating Duquesne 63-10 on Saturday, and I've actually got Florida State doing one win better than a lot of other people have. I've got them going 9-3 this year. Losses are going to be at LSU or versus LSU earlier in the year, at Miami and at NC State. But I've got FSU beating Louisville, Clemson, and Florida this year and go 9-3. And we'll think everyone will be probably pretty happy if that happens. But back to you, Aslan.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now it's our turn. Corey, 2022 Florida State, regular season record. Give us your prediction and a possible bowl game if you got them winning 6 or more.
Yeah, I'm going with 7-5. I want to go 8-4, but Ira talked me off it when he was talking about the defensive ends. He worried me a little too much about the defensive ends, and I dropped a win. The thing is, I think they will be considerably better than they were last year. The record will only be a 2-win improvement, and if they beat Jacksonville State, they're 6-6 last year. So it's only about a 1 or 2-win improvement. I just think the schedule's dicier than it was last year. It's a tough schedule. I mean, we know what the schedule is. It's tough. So 7-5 wouldn't be horrible. And then I'm thinking, what is that, Ira? What are we looking at? The Belk Bowl? Is we in Charlotte for a 7-5? Are we staying in Florida?
Duke's Mayo Bowl now. No longer Belk.
Oh, that's
Duke's
right.
Mayo
Sorry.
Bowl. Yeah.
And that's what Brett McMurphy I think picked Florida State going to the Mayo Bowl. I think I hear you, Corey. And I'm torn, man. 7-5, 8-4. I'm kind of in the middle there. If I could pick 7.5, I would, but I can't. So I'm gonna go with 8.
Pick a tie. Oh, you're gonna okay.
I'll go 8-4 because I just think they're gonna beat one of those teams that we're not really sure that they could beat. I think they could. It's possible they could beat Clemson at home. I'm not counting that as a loss right now, just because we have to see their quarterback play. If DJ Uyunglele isn't any better than he was a year ago, Florida State can win that game at home. I think, I'm not sure that the Miami game's a loss, even though it's going to be on the road. Van Dyke's a really nice player. So I'm not conceding those games. So I think if they can win one of those, I think they can get to 8-4. I think the second half of the schedule is pretty manageable. And I think the key is you got to get at least 2 of these first 3 games, either beat LSU or Louisville. I think they're going to beat Boston College and Wake Forest at home. I think they're going to, if they can just pick off one of those other teams, I'm going to go with 8-4.
And the one thing that's different, right, is like we went into last season chalking up at least 2 losses. Well, 3, I think.
Right.
Notre Dame, Clemson, and Florida. And we didn't know Florida was going to be as bad as they ended up being, and Clemson's offense was like it was, and Notre Dame went to overtime. But we went into that season thinking, okay, they're starting this season with 3 losses. The best they can do is 9-3. Now, they didn't get close to that. But this year, like you said, I don't look at any of these games and say that's an automatic loss. I just don't. I don't believe in NC State until NC State makes me a believer. Now, it's going to be a really tough game up there, but it's not outlandish to think they can win that game. It's not outlandish they can win any of these games. And that's what I think is a little bit different than last year.
I was going to say, if you would just let Ira just come to – if I would have started talking after Ira, which was part of the schedule, I would have said 8-4 because he won that debate. But then you had to come back because you were like 7-5. Ira says 8-4. I'm like, okay. And then you got the last word, Corey. I'll stick with 7-5. I'm going to go hopeful, though, with the ReliaQuest Bowl, which I guess apparently now is the old Outback Bowl. It's Big Ten ACC this year, gentlemen.
Nice.
So I'm going to speak Tampa into existence, but it's going to be my white whale. I'll be covering Florida State for 40 more years. They'll win a couple more national titles, but they'll never play a bowl game in Tampa. They won't play the Gasparilla Bowl. They won't play that one. But
what's the deal? You just want to get to Mons? What do you need to be in Tampa for?
I just want to be people. Be around my family during the holidays, Corey.
Dale Mabry, too. Big Dale Mabry fan.
The nice thing about that game, too, is it'll be a nice reunion of the Alliance, which was such a big part of our lives, that ACC Big Ten partnership, and to get them back together and Florida State to be part of it, oh, man.
And the thing about the Big Ten is their word is as strong as oak. You don't need a written contract. You just shake hands with those guys, and they're going to come through for you.
It's just in the eyes. It's the way it looks in the eyes. All right, that's a wrap for this edition of the Warchant Report. We're back and ready to go this season. Again, if you give that thumbs up on the way out, we really would appreciate it. And subscribe to warchant.com. It's only $1 for a whole year, not just the football year, not just for the calendar, the entire 365 days. As soon as you go and hit subscribe, it's only $1. Go do it. For Ira and Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for watching this edition of the Warchant Report. Stay connected to warchant.com.